Welcome to another video. My name is Zorro Carioca, codename Zoka, and today I'm going to show you another game that I played while I was streaming. And to be honest, I'm not very proud of the game that I'm going to show you because I didn't notice some ideas, some obvious continuations that I should have noticed, but I hope that both mine and my opponent's mistakes will show you some of the principles and some of the ideas that you have to be aware when you are playing a game of chess. So this game, I was white and I started with the move e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. We are going to see another Rui Lopez game because I like to play the Spanish. And the idea of the Rui Lopez is aiming this knight on c6 that is currently defending the e5 pawn. It is not possible for white to take this knight right now and they taking the pawn, but depending on how black develops, black will lose that pawn on e5 if it's not careful. So this is something that you have to be aware, especially if you play the Spanish, both as white or black. So here he defended the pawn once more time by playing d6. I struck on the center playing d4, and here he played bishop to d7, unpinning the knight that was pinned to the king once the move d6 was played. Okay, so right now I castle, and remember when I told you that you have to be careful to not lose that pawn on e5? So my opponent wasn't careful and he played the move a6. Now a6 is a mistake because you are going to win this pawn on e5. For instance, after bishop takes, which I played, and bishop takes, if I play the move d captures e5, I'm winning the pawn. And the reason why that happens is because the king is on the center, so black's not able to capture the e4 pawn once my rook can come and then attack both the king and the bishop. So for instance, a possible continuation. Knight takes, if queen takes, rook takes, black cannot take the pawn, because once I come back with the rook, there will be problems on the e-file that will guarantee a material win for white. So this continuation was fine if I play the move d captures e in the sequence. But instead, I played the move d5, and this was not a misclick. I just thought on that moment that, oh, I don't have a bishop. I don't have a light square bishop. I want to put my pawns on light squares. But I completely forgot to see how many times I was attacking the pawn. So I lost all my advantage in closing the position. Furthermore, there is one principle that states, if you are ahead in development and your opponent has its king on the center, you have to open the position. So even if I did not see that I was winning the pawn, at least I should capture this just because of this principle that I know. But the principle just disappeared from my mind on that game. I don't know what happened, to be honest. Anyway, I played this horrible move d5, and then I played c4, putting my pawns on light squares because that was what I was thinking of doing. And then he played the move c6, which is not a bad move. But here, black has to worry about developing his pieces and castle, just to put his king into safety. I developed my knight. He played g6, which again delays the development of black pieces. He could have just developed the knight or developed the bishop. So I played bishop g5, attacking the queen. And here, after he played f6, blocking my bishop, I just came back to e3. And here, black played bishop to g7. And now there's another instructive moment of the game where I had to open the position. Once again, look how many pieces I have developed. And if I just make the move d takes c after capturing with the bishop, if for example queen to b3, now I have pressure on this diagonal and on the b7 pawn. I have my rooks coming into the center, possibly doubling them to attack these weaknesses on d6. This pawn is a weakness because it's what we call a backwards pawn, a pawn that cannot advance because it will be taken, and it can't be defended by another pawn because it is backwards. So I had to play this continuation, and I know the principle, but I played the move queen to d2, and when I was analyzing this game, I noticed the reason why I didn't notice these obvious moves is because I wasn't paying attention on the position. I was just playing the game. I was focused on one specific plan. So here I thought, well, he put this bishop on g7. Let's put my queen on d2 so I can in the future play my bishop to h6 and then trade the bishops. This is a common plan when the bishop is on this square. But the thing is about chess is that you have to adjust your play on the position. And because I was so focused on one specific plan, I didn't notice the obvious move. But again, this kind of things may happen with everyone, so let's just continue. My opponent then played a horrible move, h5, and I responded with a horrible move, knight to h4, missing again the same idea of d captures c. But here my idea with knight to h4 was to attack this g6 pawn, which is weak, and the correct way to defend this is just advance. But the thing is, I played this move because I wanted to provoke my opponent to play the king to f7, and he played king to f7. But this is not what you should be doing in chess. You don't have to play provocative. You don't have to play baiting your opponent. Because if your opponent does not catch the bait, then you're probably going to be worse. But here, he played the move king to f7, and now I played f4. Finally a good move, which computer agrees since the king was the same file of my rook. So I want to open the position there, so my rook would attack his king. Computer agrees with my plan. So after g5, this is a horrible blunder because I can just take in the pawn on f6 spin. g5 should be played on the previous move, but here it's just a bad mistake. I took, he closed the center with the move c5, I took again, and here instead of winning the pawn on f6, he played bishop to h6. I mean, black's position is already lost. As you can see, evaluation is showing plus 7.6. Even if I lose this pawn, my rook will gain full activity. So he played bishop to h6. I put my knight on e5, bringing him to a more active square. My opponent took. I took the bishop. He took my bishop. I took his bishop. And now he played the move rook h6, attacking the pawn once again. I bring my other rook into game. And now, what you're going to see is a sequence of moves where I am going to build pressure. And although I didn't have one good game on the opening, for this point to the end of the game, I think it's very instructive for you to see how you can build pressure and make your opponent be paralyzed. So black plays the move queen to d7. I played my queen to g5. He attacked my queen, but doing this, the pawn was not defended, so I took the pawn on h5. Now you can see that the rook is pinned. He played the move knight to h6, attacking my rook. I bring my rook to g5, bringing one more attack to the rook. And here, rook to g8 is mandatory, since the rook was attacked 2 times. And this other rook was the only piece on the board that could defend this partner once again. Now, here I think the moment which is instructive, because a lot of players in this position would just take and try to win the game in this position, which is completely fine. Black's position is horrible anyway. What I want to show you is that if you can build pressure, it's much better to do it than trading. So here I played the move h4 just to consolidate my rook, to reinforce the rook defense. And now after queen to d8, I play knight to e2. The idea to knight to e2 is to bring to g3 and then to f5. So bringing the only piece that is not playing right now into the attack. And computer agrees with my plan, but instead computer says that knight d1 to e3 then to f5, it's a more accurate way to do it. So do not trade pieces when your opponent is paralyzed. If you can build more pressure, do it. So knight to e2, queen to a5, attacking my pawn again. Do not be deceived by your pawns if you have a winning attack. A lot of players here would be worried about losing the pawns, but man, look at this king. This king is lacking of help. His queen just abandoned the king. It's like they got divorced or something like this. It's like the queen said, I don't want nothing with you anymore. I'm just leaving. So continue to build the pressure. Knight to d3, queen to d2, and now knight to f5, which was my plan. After knight takes, you see that my queen has a path to the king, and after I took with the rook, he gave a check. I run into a2, and now there are no checks in black's position. After queen takes e4, I have this check on h7, and it's making a few moves. Black can give away all his rooks, but it will still be going to checkmate. So after king to f8, queen s7 is mate. So if you play this Spanish, you have to be aware on how the things are on what is happening on the center, because depending on how black plays, he might loses the e5 pawn. And if this happens, it's going to be a disaster because white's already castled. So be aware in the moments that you can win the pawn. Don't do like me, who just locked the position and forgot and threw away the advantage. Another instructive moment here was this one. If you are ahead in develop, just open the position. I mean, don't be deceived with moves that your opponent is playing. This is very common to happen when you are not focused on the game. Here I play the move queen to d2, just paying attention on the bishop on g7 and trying to trade in the future, but here opening the position is just the best plan, which I could not see in that moment. Finally, some good thing that I did on the game was, on this moment, once the rook was pinned, I started building pressure instead of just trading. So when you are building pressure, you have to see your pieces that are not currently playing and try to bring them in any way. Thus, it's much better to build pressure than just trade everything. And here, this attack leads to a mate. So I hope this video could help you with some of the principles that you have to be aware during the opening, the middle game, and I hope you enjoy it.